Let's get into it. Sold Not For Sale podcast. Coach Colin here. We got Joe Rogan talking about Trump and Biden and the precedent that is going to be set, that has already been set, from putting Trump through all of these wild banana republic type of court cases. Now, after I show you that clip, and also they're going to touch on mail-in ballots a little bit as well at the beginning. Now, after that, I'm going to show you how Trump very masterfully decided to avoid the gag law or the gag order that was put on him, but still say what he wants to say. And I can't wait to show you how he did that. Then you're going to hear about Chicago voters talking about how they're fed up with Joe Biden. Then you're going to hear about Trump's lawyers speaking on the cases. And then you're going to hear about Don King endorsing Trump. And then there is going to be a snippet from an interview where CNN is going rather hard on Joe Biden. You don't usually see them cut straight to the point the way they do. It's usually very fluff with Biden, but he's getting asked some hard questions, and his answers will always surprise you. Always surprise you, what he has to say about the economy and whatnot. Let's get into it. Don't forget about the new channel, Coach Colin Media. We got 68 videos up so far. Hit that subscribe button. There is a link in the description to that channel. Believe me, I break away from the Rogan content, and it is great stuff. As for right now, let's get into this Rogan clip.
Right? It's a common thing. You don't. It shouldn't be difficult. But so then you have to look at it with some skepticism, right? Are you genuinely concerned that somehow there were vast swaths of the population that were disenfranchised and not able to vote? Right? Or just can't get themselves an ID, right? Which I think is an insulting stance to take for a lot of people. But you're not. I'm sorry, you're not smart enough to get yourself an ID.
But you need one if you have a vaccine.
Yeah, but you need one if you have a vaccine.
If
or
you want to
need one.
work.
Yeah, or from Sam's Club.
Feed yourself. You need one, but you don't need one to vote because that's racist.
So yeah, exactly.
Or something.
So I think to me it just seems like we should look at it from a perspective of the way that you would do it if you were running a business, which is I want to minimize the potential opportunities for fraud. How do I do that? It's very fucking simple.
Seems fucking simple when you phrase it that way.
Yeah. So, but that's not how it's not how they're doing it right now.
But
and
is that something that can be voted on? That's the question. Who decides?
Leave it up to the people, you mean?
Well, who decides that mail-in ballots are still legitimate?
Well, I guess that was that a federal or a state decision. I think I don't know. That's a very good question. Who knows?
Because I have friends that believe there was no voter fraud at all, and I have friends that believe that 100% Trump won.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I've got both sides, and you think, okay, well, look,
someone's got to be wrong.
Well, and usually the answer is somewhere in that range, in the middle. There's some fraud. Was it enough to fuck things over? Who knows? I don't know. But again, I keep going back to the operational concerns, which is just minimize the potential for fraud. Right. Mail-in ballots have always been a thing, right? You're serving overseas or whatever. But there was a protocol for it, and it was very straightforward and very clear. And now, the concern over ballot harvesting and mail-in ballots and having months to get your thing, having weeks pass before you know who won.
Crazy.
Right? Yeah, talk about instilling skepticism over the credibility of your voting system.
Yeah.
Take weeks to figure out who won a fucking election.
Is there a real danger that Trump could win but lose, meaning that he could win the election but lose his court case?
Oh,
and literally have to go to jail while he's the president? I mean,
yeah.
This was the topic of discussion at the Rogan house today.
Was it? Well,
they were trying to figure out because
he could. There's nothing that says he can't.
Govern from jail. But is it possible that they really might put him in jail? Is he in danger of actually being put in a jail for these crimes of not... What did he do exactly? He paid a lady off, and I guess he did it in a secretive way or in a...
Well, he did it in the same way that Arnold Schwarzenegger did it, or they did it in the same way that a variety of people who are trying to suppress a bad PR story do it, right? So I think the trial that's going on right now involving Stormy Daniels in New York was the least favorite trial of the Democrats, who are the most keen to see him put in prison. Right. They all felt as if this is probably not the one to start with, but they started with it because Alvin Bragg was dead set on doing it. Right. He just I'm going to throw this out there. And, a variety of other entities had looked at that case and said, we're not going to push it forward. And so they've put this forward. I don't think that there's anybody other than the hardcore never-Trumpers, the people that are just desperate to see him in a jumpsuit, who believe that there's any merit to it. That the analysts that you watch across the board even the hard left ones, they tend to speak in caveats, right? Like, they're not completely convinced that this was the way to go. So I don't know. But having said that, if he gets convicted and if there's like you got to go to prison, sounds so fucking bizarre. How do we get to this point?
Right.
Then I don't know of any I don't know of anything that says he can't, continue to run or be, elected.
Is that what he's being accused of? Is this generally a crime that people actually have to go to jail for?
No.
Has anybody gone to jail for that?
No, they're trying to tie this in to sort of the campaign issue of campaign funds, influencing of the campaign. That's what they're trying to tie it into. Well, of course, he's trying to suppress a story, right, that he thought would be bad, or that they thought, his team thought would be bad for a campaign, right? But that in and of itself, so they got to tie it into how the funds were expended. They've tried this in the past. And again, it's not like there haven't been countless dudes who, did the mess around and then had to pay to get the story suppressed, right? I mean, there are PR firms that specialize in that sort of thing. So I don't know. I don't see that this is going to tank him, right? There's probably other cases out there.
Is it a case where, there's probably more cases, right? Waiting? They're going to keep throwing it at him.
Yeah, they've got a timeline of cases. And look, the Democratic strategists have been, they stick to a message. They're very smart and they're very disciplined. But they all sat in a room somewhere and they looked at these various things. They looked at the election calendar and they looked at, where the primaries are, and they looked at when they could maybe get these trials going. And the idea being, let's just keep this thing rolling. Keep him in the news as being in a court, right?
Right.
The idea that the idea that he's got to sit there and can't leave, you don't see that. That's not a typical move, right? But now he's locked into that court on whatever, Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday and Friday, or whatever. So with the idea being he's not out on the campaign trail.
Right.
So,
but he's also in the news, and his supporters think that he's being unduly prosecuted or unfairly prosecuted.
Right.
And that it's a political prosecution. And that all they're trying to do, which is essentially un-American, is suppress their political rival.
Right. And that is a large number of people in the country.
A larger number every day, I think, as this goes on, as they gain more of an understanding of this case. Like, the problem is, if you're a Democrat and you support this, if he does get in power, now he has this ability. You have to understand there's a precedent that's been set.
Yeah.
And if you don't think that Biden has a shitload of things, so let's say Biden loses, okay? Let's get really crazy. Let's get really, really crazy. Biden loses. They inject him with stem cells for 3 years. And then they roll him out in 2027. Like, let's do it again.
Let's do it again.
Trump won the second term. We saw disasters that was. And they say, you know what? He's been sharper than ever. And you get these New York liberals who just gaslight the shit out of you. I saw that video, and I'll tell you, I'm pumped. He's as sharp as a tack. He's never been better. Sure, he's old, but that's his superpower.
His work ethic looks fantastic.
Goodness. He is so kind. He's such a good man. He's the father of our country.
Well,
We're so lucky.
I read an ex post by, admittedly, a guy that works for a consulting firm in D.C., right? He's a Democratic strategist, but he wrote this glowing thing about how, Biden's had this great couple of weeks. Man, has he had a good couple of weeks.
He's on fire.
Yeah, he's on fire. Look what he's done in the Middle East, right? And you think,
4 more years.
Well, you could argue that part of our problem was we coddled the Iranian regime for 3 years, and that's how things got to this stage. And now what? Suddenly he's had a good couple of weeks. They're not leading the charge on any ceasefire negotiations, right? In fact, you could argue that they're making national security decisions related to Israel based on domestic policy concerns or political concerns, right? You don't want to lose the youth vote. You don't want to lose the Arab American vote by being overly supportive of Israel. So there is some concern here.
But isn't that losing the Jewish vote then? Because we talked about this yesterday, that 70% of Jewish people identify or vote as Democrats.
Yeah, I know. And what's that all about? I've never been quite clear on how that number worked, right?
It's interesting.
Yeah, it is interesting. But anyway, I don't want to say that they're making too many decisions based on domestic political concerns, but I think that they are. That's just the nature of the game, right? And so I don't think I'm being overly cynical. But
what I was getting to was that if Biden if we went crazy in 2027, they get him on stem cells and they put him in a hyperbaric chamber every day for 4 hours, and he's sharp as a tackers.
Look at him.
Knife.
He's sharper than his Uncle Bosie was.
Imagine if Trump goes after him, because there's a lot to go after. If they started uncovering the emails and the Burisma stuff and the fact that he said he never talked to any of his son's business partners, but Hunter Biden's former partner said they had at least 20 phone calls, the fact that he allegedly used a pseudonym when he was exchanging emails, all that's nuts.
Yeah.
All that is nuts. Well, if that was the case, if now Trump gets to go after him, now we're dealing with insanity. Now we're dealing with every time someone is president, they have the power to prosecute their political rivals for unnecessary means.
Which is the whole argument of immunity, right?
This is not a thing that should be a thing that decides whether or not a guy gets to run for president.
No, that's a very crazy. Fourth world thing, right? And I probably get in trouble for saying fourth world. People go, oh my God, how can you denigrate the fourth world? Well,
is that us? Are we fourth world?
We're heading in that direction.
Well, I don't know if we're first world anymore.
You're crazy. Greatest nation in the world. First world all the way. Just trying to preserve it, right? You got to preserve that whole thing. Now, exactly what Joe just finished on, I've said so many times, would not be happy. Like, I like Trump. I want to see Trump as president. Wouldn't be happy if he did that exact same thing to Biden as Biden was running. You know? Wouldn't be happy about that. I'd be like, whoa, what's going on? If he just went at Barack and then went at this person and that person. Hey, what happened with that chef? Hey, was it like, you know? I wouldn't be happy about it. It'd be interesting. It'd be very interesting. Because those potential hypothetical cases that are just in the wind are a lot more sinister than anything Trump is being tried for. Just saying. He might actually get some convictions. I mean, he might get some solid convictions. But I wouldn't be happy to see that if he was doing it just because they were running. You know? It's not something that you want to see happen. Because then it has to escalate. Right? So it's like right now you're trying Trump and it's not going to work. And then if he did the same thing, whoever was after Trump serves a second term, what are they going to do? How far are they going to take it? Are they just going to find out about everybody who's running and just slowly just start charges here, charges there? You know, like what's going to happen? It's just going to get worse and worse and worse until there's just one person who's like, I know how this works. If I get out of power, I'm going to jail. So guess what? I'm not leaving office. That's it. They do some finagling. They move thing here. Then the next thing you know, you got a dictator on your hands. You never know. You just never know. So you don't want that type of thing to happen, man. At least with Trump, you know, people, you know, Robert De Niro. I don't know if you guys seen Robert De Niro. Robert De Niro's very scared of what Trump's going to do. He's very, very frightened. Comparing him to Mussolini and stuff. But, you know, that whole thing that they bring up about him becoming a dictator, at least right now, he's getting all of his cases out. So he has no fear of running for president, becoming president, and then just leaving office. He'll be fine. Because there's nothing else they have. This is everything that they have, which is why it's just this ongoing thing over and over and over again. I'm going to show you some video clips, though. But I just want to go over straight up. Mail-in ballots, voter ID is racist. It's just, these little things are just such a soup for, such a recipe for bad things to happen. And when you see one side pushing for those things so hard, it just makes you wonder, you know? It really makes you just go, why do you want that so badly? Why are you fighting for that still? You know, voter ID alone, just it being racist. It's like the next thing you're going to hear, it's like voter ID is just, it's against climate change. It just affects the climate so much. The IDs, you know how many trees for the IDs and the oil. Oh my gosh. The planet is going to, you're only going to have so many years left if we make voter ID a thing. That's going to be terrible for the planet. You understand the carbon, the invisible enemy around us. That's going to be AOC for sure. She's going to be like, do you want to live another year or not? Let everybody vote. People who are tourists, illegal immigrants, people in other nations. We have to do this for the planet. That's going to be her take. And then Trump in jail as president. First off, he's not going to jail. That's just not happening. Because he has Secret Service, right? So if he has Secret Service, like what happens? The Secret Service goes into the jail too? That doesn't make any sense. He's in general population with 20 guys around him. Like, it just makes no sense. And then they go home, they do shifts. Makes no sense. So he's definitely not going into a jail. Although I'm sure they would like to do that because it would just solidify everything they've been going after. But I think if he becomes president, he doesn't serve in jail. I think he'd be able to say, well, I'm president and I have things to do. I have countries to visit, leaders to talk to. So I'm pushing all that aside. I'm pretty sure he could do that. I'm pretty sure as the president, you can say, yeah, I know you guys think I'm going to jail, but I'm the president now, so I'm not. I know that might sound bad to some people, but I'm pretty sure the president has that power. And also, suppressing a story is not against the law. I like the way Mike brought that up. Compared it to Arnold Schwarzenegger. He talked about how there are PR companies that specialize in this type of thing. All of that's very, very true. They suppress stories all the time. That's why they're trying to link it to how he expensed it. When you really, a lot of people don't look into it and they just say maybe he shouldn't have broke the law. But when you really look into that case, it makes no sense. No sense. And I've already gone down this rabbit hole, looked into the case. It's nothing. It's nothing. Somebody just wrote this, and you could argue that they should have wrote something else. But also, because the lawyer is the one that worked out the money that was going to go to Stormy Daniels, because that lawyer worked it out, he was like, well, we're going to give the money to the lawyer. The lawyer's going to handle things, so put it as a legal expense. And they're like, oh, no. Like, well, what else would you put? You know what I mean? It's so weird. And then Mike said it. I haven't heard anybody say this. I can't believe it's Mike Baker that said it, but they just want to see him as a criminal. They're just trying to depict him as a criminal, because anybody who's just reading headlines, anybody who's just taking in the mainstream news, that is all they're seeing. He must be a criminal because he has to keep going to court. Another case? Huh? What? There's another case? Oh, wow, this guy's really a criminal. He must be. There's been so many cases. You know, those type of people don't make the connection to, oh, he can't campaign. They're actually keeping him very still. They're not letting him do things that someone running for president needs to do. Nobody takes in that. Like, I haven't heard anybody else say that. I've been saying that for a while. Have not heard anybody else say that. Now, let's get to the next video already. Donald Trump, he learns a value. He does something very good here. So, he has a gag order on him, right? Okay, so he has a gag order on him. Can't say what he wants to say. So, what does he do instead? Well, if you look at his hands as he's walking up, he has something. And it's what CNN has reported. And that's what he's about to read. Listen to this.
We're going to take you to Lower Manhattan and former President Trump.
Are you a victim of extortion? The country is on fire. There are protests all over the country. I've never seen anything like this. Many graduation ceremonies are being canceled. They canceled, as you know, in Colombia. They're canceling a lot of them. And we have a president that just refuses to talk because he can't talk. You know that. So does everyone else. Some of the statements made about this witch hunt on CNN, fake news CNN, Michael Moore said the proof of falsifying records has not been accomplished. On Good Morning America, they said, we heard that expense payments to lawyers are legal expenses. You pay a lawyer expense payments. We didn't put it down as construction costs, the purchase of sheetrock, the electrical cost. The legal expense that we paid was put down as legal expense. There's nothing else you could say. You don't have to put down anything, I guess. But we put down legal expense was legal expense. Is that a correct statement, Mr. Attorney? And everyone's saying, oh, gee, that's the fraud. That's what they're trying to get us on. The fact that we call a legal expense a legal expense. They marked it down in the books. The check was signed. And the other thing, this was approved by all agencies. Everybody saw this. There was nothing being hidden at all. That's what they're all writing now. There's been nothing hidden. And it went through agencies, and I guess it went through the IRS also. It went through IRS. It went through the FEC. It went through everything. Also, NBC Today showed the challenges that there is no smoking gun, no email or tape to prove the president's intent. They don't have a way to prove that. That's NBC Today Show. And then Fox News, Katie Cherkasky, said that the gag order is unconstitutional, which of course it is. The gag order is unconstitutional. So with all that's going on, they have no case. Every single legal scholar that I see, I mean, maybe there's somebody out there, some whack job, but for virtually everyone that I've seen has said there's absolutely no case. It's a case that shouldn't have been brought. The previous DA wouldn't bring it. Bragg didn't want to bring it, and he brought it because I'm running in number one place. This all comes out of the White House and crooked Joe Biden. This comes from the White House, and it's all Biden because it's an attack on his political opponent. That hasn't happened in this country. It does happen in third world countries, but it hasn't happened in this country, and it's a shame. And the trial is a very unfair trial. It's a very, very unfair trial. The good news is they have nothing. Thank you.
Why is it unfair? Mr. President, do you plan on testifying?
Man, so he just read those, and apparently that makes it so he has not violated the gag order. The things that he just read now, and then addressing those things that people said is not him violating the gag order, apparently. Very, very well played by Mr. Trump, President Trump. Love to see it. Absolutely love to see it. And yeah, you know, it's really interesting. I shouldn't say it's really interesting because there's a lot of people that do see it the way Trump's saying. It's obvious where this is coming from. It's not, you know, and again, Mike Baker laid it out great. He was just like, you know, they looked at the timeline. They're like, okay, if we bring the cases up now, each case is going to take this long. Hopefully we get some convictions. If we get convictions, that's amazing. But even if we don't, it's still amazing because we can keep him in cases all the way up until election time, until it's time. Like, Trump might be in these cases maybe just before November, maybe up until November. Who knows? So very, very, very wild stuff going on with Donald Trump, man. You've never seen anything like this. And honestly, hope you never see anything like this again. Even if it was Biden. I don't want to see anything like this again. It's crazy. Absolutely crazy. Let's get into some Chicago residents that are getting into the whole, you know, they're fed up with Biden. They're trying to cause a red wave. They're talking about how many people are fed up with Biden. And I love what they're doing because they're really doing it grassroots. They're waking up, and it's because of what's happening with all the illegals. And it's sad that that's the way that they had to wake up. But now that they are awake, they are really fighting hard. And it's not just these two ladies. There are hundreds, perhaps even 1,000 of these people who are really spreading the message, who are really, because it's so different when it comes from Fox News or some news anchor and they're talking about what the illegals are doing and this and that. It's so different when it's actually people in your neighborhood who are trying to wake you up, who are saying, hey, you see what's going on. Like, you look over there, think about how much we need. I think just alone, Brandon Johnson, if you don't know, he's the mayor of Chicago. They have an opioid fund for people going through that type of thing. Parents that lost kids, people who need to recover, all of that stuff. They took $51 million out of that fund and put it into the illegal immigration crisis that they're currently having. And then before proposing to put that money back, they come out again and say, we're going to need another $70 million. Absolutely atrocious behavior by the mayor of Chicago and everybody who's along with them. Let's listen to this video.
P. Ray, so President Biden's going to be in Chicago for a fundraiser tonight, but if he chooses to look around and see what Chicago is really like, what would he find?
He's going to see that Chicago is not the Democratic stronghold that they anticipated that it would be when they did their planning earlier this year.
And by that, what do you mean?
The city is completely fed up with the Democratic Party. We are stepping over illegals every day. They're now trying to break into people's homes. Gas is through the roof. Groceries are through the roof. Violence is up. Nothing is comfortable here under Democratic leadership, and we're all moving on. So I think he's going to come to MAGA country, just like Jussie Smollett told us we were.
Interesting callback there. We all remember that moment for sure. Betty, you have some thoughts on President Biden's visit today. You say you're still trying to figure out why he's even coming to Chicago in the first place. What do you mean by that?
What I mean is I know pretty much, kind of like Ms. P. Ray said, that the Democratic Party has counted us for so long, counted our votes for so long, to the point where they don't even try to appeal to the Black community, the Black voters at all. But there's been a shift taking place here in Chicago. So many of our Black members have decided to change over, to switch from blue to red. And I think it's kind of too late now to come to Chicago to appeal to us. It's nothing here for him. We are fed up, as Ms. P. Ray said, with all the things that we're dealing with here in Chicago. This has been a very dysfunctional city for a while up under this party. And the people here are now fighting back, especially the Black community.
Wow.
No reason to come here.
Yeah, P. Ray, that's really interesting because President Biden won Cook County in 2020 by 74%. That's landslide territory. Mm-hmm. And now you're saying that there's so much frustration that people are no longer supporting President Biden. Do you think that come election time, come November, those people will actually vote for Donald Trump, or will they just not show up to vote at all?
I think that they're definitely going to vote for Donald Trump because we can't afford to keep subsidizing the illegals who are coming here. I believe our mayor said that we're going to get $5,000 a month this summer. So that's only going to exacerbate our issues and the frustrations that the people currently have. People are proudly stating that they're going to vote for the first time in their lives, and they're going to run to the polls to vote for Donald John Trump Sr.
So, Betty, Chicago has spent over $310 million on migrant care since August of 2022. When you hear that number, what goes through your mind?
It's very, very upsetting for me because that money could have went to so many other things here in the city of Chicago. Our school system here, particularly in the Black community, has suffered tremendously. Our students are leaving our communities to go to other schools. The crime rate is still very high here. So we have crimes that's gone unsolved. Homicides going back as far as 2014. It's just so many things that money could have been used for. And as a people here, we've been told that we have no money. There is no money for Chicago, for the citizens here. But now all of a sudden, monies are coming in to support illegal aliens, not migrants, to support illegals. We are the citizens here.
Right.
We've paid into the system, and we're suffering.
Yeah. They figured out a way to find $310 million to fight the migrant crisis, and here you are saying that that money could have been put back into the community to support the legal residents who were born in the United States. P. Ray, really quickly, before we let you go, President Biden, of course, on the campaign trail, which is why he's going to Chicago today. All the while, Donald Trump is tied up in the courtroom with these court cases. What do you think about those court cases? How closely are you following them? And would the outcome of any of these trials impact your vote?
We're not paying attention to any of that tabloid fodder. They can put him in jail. We're going to write his name on the ballot and send him letters and put money on the commissary. We want our president back. We want an America First president because we are Americans. I'm an 8th generation free American. So any president that's going to put my country and my community and Americans first have our vote. We don't care about those trials, and as he always does, I'm very confident that the president's going to beat this sham trial as well.
Betty Guider, P. Ray Easley, thank you so much for joining.
Man, love to hear it. Love to hear it. Now that woman who has the hat on, she is spearheading the whole red wave that's taking place in Chicago. But I would say even more so, and again, I'm just bringing it up again, even more so who's spearheading it is the Democratic mayor, Brandon Johnson. He is the one spearheading this red wave because people are just so fed up with the stuff that he's doing. It's wild. He was so, his policies and the things he was doing was so radically left. The first thing I did, I'm like, oh, this guy's for sure a young global leader. He's for sure in the WEF. And I'm like, not yet. I'm like, okay, maybe he's trying to get in there or something. I don't know. He's a young guy, and you would think as a young person, you've really seen what Chicago's gone through. You've been involved in seeing your friends pass away and seeing all these troubles, and he still lives in it's not like he's outside of Chicago. He's not even in a very rich area either, apparently. And you would think that you could see all of this happening, that you would be like, I have to fix this immediately. I have to fix this. These are my people. He's from Chicago. Nothing. They've done more. They've had more action. Like the woman said, $300 some odd, and it's from my calculations, from what I did in another video I was covering it on the other channel. It's more than 300,000 from the articles that I was bringing up. 300,000, more than 300 million. I think it's near, especially if he gets that 70 million. I think it's near $500 million that they've put into it. It's just. What could have been done for Chicago, the place that has the most wild gang fights, wild gang rivalry, the drug selling that's going on there, the trafficking. What could have been done if all of that focus was just put on the citizens of Chicago? And that's what they want to find out. So they want to get, and let me tell you something. They need a president. America First president, that's going to help the border situation, which will stop the 5,000 a day that are going to come through. But then after that, they need a Republican mayor. And if it's not even a Republican mayor, just a better mayor who's not going to do things like this, who's actually going to put America first. But, I'm trying to be fair, but usually you're going to find American First in more of a Republican. Just saying. Not always, but most of the time. Correct me if I'm wrong. Let me know about somebody. Anyways, let's get into it. Trump's lawyer just talking about the cases with Benny Johnson himself. Let's get into it.
Again, you've worked with Donald Trump for a long time. I have no idea how long you've been an attorney, but you've risen up in the ranks really high. You must be great at your job. I, as somebody who went to community college, I'm no lawyer, but even I know that if you go to a crime scene and you're a member of law enforcement and you decide to doctor the crime scene in a way that looks worse for the accused, then you become the criminal, right? Like if you plant evidence at a crime scene, that's no bueno. You might get an Uno reverse on that. And that is exactly what we've just learned over the last 48 hours Jack Smith did. He affixed classified document markings to classified documents. He reorganized where all the documents were. The documents were held at GSA and then shoved onto Trump's property. So who knows if the government actually planted the evidence there, where the classified documents were. And then we know that all the photos were staged. Yeah. So how does this case continue?
It shouldn't. I mean, those are really concerning facts. And what's so great about the way these cases are unfolding. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't believe they should have been brought in the first place, but they chose to bring these wild and crazy cases. So they're bringing them and they're unfolding in a way, as you just so eloquently pointed out, you don't have to be a lawyer to see that it's complete bunk. Anybody can look at this and go, there's something wrong with that. And so I would say the silver lining of all of the turmoil that we've all been put through over the last several years is it's so obvious that the media is having a hard time covering it up. It used to be they could kind of tweak things here and there and throw in some legalese and legal mumbo jumbo to where the public was like, okay, I don't really get it, but I guess it's fine. They can't do that anymore. It's falling apart and anybody can see, hey, they're treating Donald Trump one way, they're treating Joe Biden, who actually did have classified documents, who actually was not authorized to have them and stored them in a very insecure area. They're treating them very differently. I'm not a lawyer, but I can see that that's not right. So I would say that's the silver lining to all of this is it's plain as day what they're doing.
So silver linings. You're now at the RNC. We've been waiting for somebody with some brass to come into the RNC and really like tighten the ship up a little bit. Like where the hell were you the last couple of years, right? Like what are you doing with the money? Whatever. Okay.
So they're already getting into that case, the classified documents. It's very, very interesting. I think one thing that she brought up just now that's very true is that the way things are working, and X has a role to play in this because of how information comes out just so like a fire hose just everywhere. You know, people are starting to actually go, well, you know, I'm not an expert, but I can clearly see like, just that case alone. Like, oh, he had documents. Oh, he had documents too. Okay. So are they not supposed to? Oh, when you're president, you can? Okay. And when you're vice president, you can't? Oh, so he was vice president. But he's in trouble? But is he in trouble after? Oh, he's not in trouble after. Okay. All right. Okay. Like everybody can understand exactly what's going on. You know, yeah. That's a very interesting one, especially with what Benny brought up about the pictures and the doctoring, and I really want to see that play out a little more because I think that one's going to fall through too. I think what's going to happen with all of his cases is that they're all going to fall through. I think him paying that big fine is going to be the only thing that comes of all this, and the fact that he has to be made out to look like a criminal throughout this whole thing. I think that's going to be the only thing. I don't think there's going to be a conviction. I don't think there's going to be any type of jail time. I think it's just going to be case after case. It's just going to look worse and worse as time goes on. But again, you know, it's going to work in his favor, and it's going to work in the American citizens' favor as well. Because as you see this happening, more and more people, I think Joe even said it in this clip, more and more people every day are waking up because they're like, what's going on? Why is there so many cases? And, you know, a lot of people hate to hear it, but a lot of black people were like, I've seen this before. It's true. It's true. You've seen it before. Do you know how many people hear about him not being able to go to his son's graduation who have had a friend or maybe a father that had that same thing go on, that's maybe from the inner city community, black community, and maybe not even that? And they look at that and they go, okay, that's vile. That's vile. I know who I'm voting for. Some people make a decision just based on that, you know? So we'll see we'll see where it all goes. But I'm very much not thinking about these cases. It's not like a nail biter, like, oh, what's going to happen? You know, the only nail biter is what else are they going to do to him when the legal stuff runs out, you know? Because first they try to take away your name and throw dirt on your name. If that doesn't work, they move on to try and put you in jail. And if you don't get put in jail, well, then they move on to the very last thing where, you know what ends up happening to people like that. They go through a little ride through Dallas type of thing. Here's Don King endorsing Donald Trump. Might not be able to hear it that well, but let's go.
Number one, this is history. We have our 2024 election. I work with President Trump. Do you have a quick message for our good friend and our brother?
Yes, get reelected. And we must reelect him to save ourselves. You know, vote for Trump is a vote for yourself. You know, because we got to fight the system of lies and creation of wrong being right and right being wrong. That's got to be eliminated. You know what I mean? And the only man who has the intestinal fortitude to be able to stand up and fight the system like it should be fought, but he underestimated the power of this strong system of corruption and hypocrisy. You know what I mean? And lies, you know what I mean? And showing weakness where strength should be deployed. And that's so right. I want to say to them, let's America, let's save ourselves, and then we can help others to be safe.
Number one, this is history.
Well said. Well said. Vote for him is a vote for yourself. You know, And obviously, not everybody feels like that. Even people who aren't on the side of Biden, some people want to go for RFK instead. And I know all of that, but I do like what he had to say there. That is a great endorsement. You know, he said the intestinal fortitude. I think he said something else. I was reading the caption. I'm like, I think he's saying something else, not intestinal fortitude. But you know what he means. He has brass. Trump has some brass ones on him. I think that's what he was saying. Let's get into this last clip. Erin Burnett. Very odd. I've done videos about Erin Burnett. She is in CNN. She's on CNN, sorry. And she is very much someone who is always going directly with the narrative and pushing it so hard. So it was so interesting to see her ask this kind of tough question and bring up the things she did to Joe Biden. Although at the same time, after Biden being outed as having his interviews very much planned, I don't know. But again, I don't know why they would plan to ask him questions like this. So let's get into it.
Aware of many of these, of course. The cost of buying a home in the United States is double what it was when you look at your monthly costs from before the pandemic. Real income, when you account for inflation, is actually down since you took office. Economic growth last week, far short of expectations. Consumer confidence, maybe no surprise, is near a 2-year low. With less than 6 months to go to Election Day, are you worried that you're running out of time to turn that around?
We've already turned it around. Look at the Michigan survey. For 65% of American people think they're in good shape economically. They think the nation's not in good shape, but they're personally in good shape. The polling data has been wrong all along. You know, how many, you guys do a poll with CNN, how many folks you have to call to get one response? The idea that we're in a situation where things are so bad, the folks that, I mean, we've created more jobs. We're in a situation where people have access to good paying jobs. And the last I saw, the combination of the inflation, the cost of inflation and all those things, that's really worrisome to people with good reason. That's why I'm working very hard to bring the cost of rentals down, to increase the number of homes that are available. But let me say it this way. When I started this administration, people were saying there's going to be a collapse of the economy. We have the strongest economy in the world. Let me say it again, in the world.
Although GDP last week was far short of expectations.
Oh, it wasn't. Look, GDP is still growing. Look at the response of the markets. Overwhelmingly positive. Overwhelmingly positive. And one of the reasons why people feel good about it not being as strong as it was before is they believe that the Fed's going to respond.
They hope they're going to get a rate cut.
Yeah. Well, but I mean, no president's had the run we've had in terms of creating jobs and bringing down inflation. It was 9% when I came to office. 9%. But look, people have a right to be concerned. Ordinary people, the idea that you bounce a check and you get a $30 fee for bouncing the check, I changed that. You can't charge more than $8 for that. Or your credit card, your late payment, $35. I mean, there's corporate greed going on out there, and it's got to be dealt with.
Hey, just listen to me, all right? Just listen to me for a second, all right? It's just, I know there's 20 million illegal aliens, and we don't know any of their names. All right, fine. But listen, when you bounce a check because you don't have any money, okay? Because you don't have the money in your bank account, because groceries are too high. But let me tell you something. Instead of you paying $30 when you bounce that check, because you will, because you have no money. I know. How about you pay $8? Huh? Hey, what are you talking about these polls? People feel like they're in good shape. We call them and we ask them, hey, how you feeling? You feeling like you're in good shape? You overweight a little bit? You're not overweight? How you feeling? You exercising a little bit? All right, she's in good shape. What's the problem? I don't understand what the problem is. What's the issue? Listen, it's $30. We'll make it $8. All right? And you can bounce as many checks as you need to until the next time you get paid. And let me tell you, there's so many jobs, you can get a second and third job. You can get a second and third job. Hey, come on, man. Come on, man. You could have 4 jobs. This is America, goddammit. There's corporate greed going on. I go to these corporations and I say, hey, I'm the big guy. Give me 10%. They say no. There's corporate greed going on. Oh, man. But you know what? Going back to the Rogan clip, it would be sad if this gentleman, that gentleman that you just saw, if he was getting tried, if he was getting tried, you know, because he was running for president, I would not be happy about it at all. Not at all. But again, interesting that she was saying all these things. He brought up GDP and she's like, yeah, you know, it was actually down. Like, I'm like, why are they doing this push? Anytime I see CNN doing stuff like this, I'm like, what's going on here? I never just think of it like, oh, CNN stepping it up. It's like, no. Something's happening here. Like, is there a new narrative that's being put out? You know, Joe Rogan keeps talking about it. He talked about it with Tim Dillon. I think he talked about it with Mike Baker. And he talked about it another time where they were talking about May being the time where Biden will be out and then they'll bring Newsom in, which is terrifying. Actually terrifying. Someone, I'm not even going to get into it, but just imagine a charming, able to debate, you know, good head of hair, good smile version of Hillary Clinton, of a kind of likable version of Hillary. He's like a mix of Hillary Clinton and Biden and Justin Trudeau. Oh gosh, no. Oh no. But Joe keeps talking about how May that's supposed to happen, and then you see CNN doing things like this to Biden. I'm just like, interesting. Because, you know, it all works in tandem, right? They don't just say, hey, Mr. President, you know, we need you to just step down so someone else can step in. They go behind the scenes, and the next thing you know, he's getting interviewed, he's getting hardball questions, and, you know, they work together. I'll say that. But interesting, man. Interesting stuff. Let me know what you guys think about it all in the comments section. Trump avoiding the gag order, Biden in Chicago not being well received, what Trump's lawyer was saying, and this interview that we just saw with Joe Biden. Let me know what you guys think of all of it. Other than that, I am out. Like, subscribe, all that good stuff helps tremendously.